Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of The Digital Deck. I'm Antonia Holder, the founder of Kids Digital Wellness and the inventor of the DigiRoot case. And I'm so excited for today's episode with my guest speaker because he is somebody who I have personally went to help with my own aches and pains and get a better understanding of how our positioning in life, not just technology, but how we carry our bodies, the way we walk, of course, how we interact with technology, how it all plays a role and impacts our bodies. So I would like you to welcome Sandro Fabler. Welcome, welcome, Sandro.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Why don't we get started by you telling our audience a little bit about you, what you do, maybe how you get started.
First, I'm a girl's dad.
Girl
So
dad.
yeah, that's probably the most important thing in my life. I'm also a physiotherapist, and that comes with a lot of different things because I'm also a business owner. So entrepreneurial spirit in the house, and very important to me is looking at how our alignment influences how we move, the pains and problems that we have, the movement patterns that we choose. Um,
Do you want to share a little bit about your journey, how you got started? I know you practiced overseas for a little bit in sports, I believe.
yes, I work for a football club called Antwerpen Football Club. The persons who are fans of the red team in Manchester would be familiar with Antwerpen. I'll call any name.
Are you
But
trying not to say Manchester United?
see, you just went and did it.
Just say it.
Might have
All the Manchester United fans
to
out there, don't be ashamed. Put your
you
hand
start
up.
calling you start calling names. You might have to start paying fees. I don't know what's going on around here this way.
Well, if they impose that, there will be billions of dollars richer. You know how many people say the names these days? There's no way that could fly.
Thanks. Well, it's not my favorite team, I have
I
to
think
say.
we got that. Hmm.
But anyway, they were a good employer, and I worked for the Belgian club, and yeah, it was a great experience. But that's not why I'm here. The other parts of my journey, working with neurological problems, cardiac problems, is probably something that I find great importance with, and I enjoy it. I really do enjoy it, and some of that journey comes from what I experienced as a young man, having family members having disabilities and problems. And I honestly just can't stand to see it. So I think this partly influenced what my career choice was. Um, but I
That's
have to say,
amazing. So that was
completely,
a catalyst for why you were interested in this field. And now you want to help and prevent people from getting to the point at which you saw your family members suffering.
yeah. Ain't that interesting how that works?
Yeah.
It kind of puts a fire inside you, even if you don't know it's there. It's like
Hmm. Yeah.
fire.
Sometimes it's a latent awakening, but it happens nonetheless. And we really have to do our best to recognize that and leverage it. Because when there's passion behind the work you do, it tends to get much better results in life, both from your own fulfillment and enjoyment and the people who you're serving too.
Absolutely, and it doesn't feel like work. I honestly love
Yes,
to
that's key. Yes.
dance.
Thank
So
you for sharing that. And so you've created your own practice. Is that correct?
yes, it's called Evolution Healing Center. We're here on Point Finger Road, and we have a great team. We have a great team, and we do some great work. And so we're just getting started. 5
Excellent.
years.
5 years ago?
5 years. 5 years. 2022. So 2023 will be 6 years.
Wow, congratulations. That's awesome. And, the industry itself is not one that has been diverse in the previous years, in the past years. Now we're seeing a lot more individuals come from all walks of life, of different backgrounds in this area, in this field, and supporting, the masses. So I love to see it. Let me jump in with some of the questions I have. So as a physiotherapist and having traveled and working in Bermuda for the past almost 6 years in your own practice, what are some of the signs that we should look out for in relation to our kids and their patterns of movement, and perhaps how technology is impacting all of that for them? What are some of the signs that we can look for?
I'm not a pediatric specialist, but if there are systems of movement that clearly identify kids as movement specialists, and we probably look at them like they don't know how to move. But from the time the child's in the crib and they see you walk, and they're like, "I would do that,"
Yeah.
and proceed for a whole year trying. You think that just because they can't talk and talk about their journey, they are trying to walk like you.
Mm-hmm.
Starts with on the back, and they're doing this rolling thing, and then they learn how to post up on the side. Then they learn how to crawl. So there's a progress in that whole thing. And then once they're on their feet, it's more momentum driven and using their abdomen and using their ability to generate pressure around that core area to move. So it's kind of all momentum. Like once they get started, they can't stop. And then once you're standing, it's a whole journey that that's there that they're not even able to talk about. So I find that that's an interesting part. Speaking of signs with kids, I suppose as soon as you put a child in front of an electronic device, you need to look at their alignment and what they're doing. Because it's not something that existed naturally in our ecosystem until recently, in which case the general signs we should be looking at is it too close to that?
Mm-hmm.
Is it too much light? Is it stimulation? The other thing I do like to talk about is the before the age of 2, and probably after that for some kids, but the earliest at age 2, the child's brain can recognize changes in screens. So they're not able to recognize. So you put them in front of a TV, and they didn't even know that they don't recognize, or they're not able to observe that that's a screen change. To them, it's all one thing.
Right. Very interesting.
So the brain, and if you put a child in front of a learning anything that teaches them, like any learning platform, and then you have an adult teach them, 100% of the time, the adult teaching them, engaging with them, they will learn that, and may or may not be able to learn what they saw on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
So
the key indicators that you want to look for when you are considering healthy digital wellness habits for kids, you want to watch out for how close the screen is to your child's face, the light, how much is emitting from the screen, which would be directly related to how close it is, and then also the physical positioning of the child looking at the screen. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, those are the first things, and then are they too young to be even doing it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
There's not a lot of awareness around brain development and how it impacts the devices impact the developing brain. So there's a lot of evidence in that area. When you look at the evidence, you probably don't want to be, putting these things in front of your kids before the age of 2. And even then you want to be kind of very diligent about why and what you're putting in front of them. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
And, yeah. So it's like I said, the change in screen may or may not be observed very well. And if you think they're learning something because it's in front of the screen, it may or may not be. So having that direct engagement is 100% of the time better, according to the evidence. So that's a good way to start. The next thing I like to talk about is alignment, so neck alignment. The good thing about kids very young is that a lot of the seats tend to be fully supported. So that's a good thing. They tend to not have the patterns like us adults. We tend to put our chin out for everything, for driving. Everybody wants us to put our chin out. If you're driving, if you're watching the TV, if you have a computer screen, and that tends to be a less stable position for the neck.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who does fighting, like as a boxer or martial artist, will tell you, like, if somebody sticks their neck out, I got you.
And that's very interesting because it was when I first came to you for my own personal neck and back and shoulder issues. One of the exercises you had me doing was, holding my head down and sticking my neck out on, like, kind of unsupported so that it could flex that muscle. Do you think
that direction, though, going backwards, right?
Right. Sorry, not going forward, going backwards, to help stimulate. Do you think kids who are experiencing the back and neck and shoulder pains due to tack neck would benefit from that type of exercise? Or again, because they're so young and nimble, it doesn't really impact them?
That's an interesting question. I don't even know. I mean, it's define the age, because I think the youngest person that I've seen is probably around age 7, 8, 9. You start seeing that, and some of it's because of habits. They might be laying down in awkward positions doing it. So it's
Thank you for
no
saying that.
one.
Let me just interject 1 second, because that was one of my questions. Was the youngest person you sort of treated, right, for TAC-NAC, which is, the catch-all phrase for pain that happens due to, watching your tablet devices. So you said 7 years old. How does that pain manifest for them? Do they come in saying, my shoulder hurts or my neck hurts? What do they say?
A bit of a variability. I mean, the nervous system senses pain according to where it senses it, but that doesn't mean that's where it's coming from. So in the end, it's put on when you sift through and figure out what they're actually doing repeatedly. Then you realize, okay, it's probably due to this repeated motion that you're doing, or repeated static motion of sitting there in certain positions. And I would say over COVID was the most amount of people that I saw for that problem. So that was the first time I saw kids.
Okay.
Because a lot of sitting around, and a lot of devices. I mean, if you're working from home and you need to get something done, and the kids are there and there's no school for them, then you got to do something. So that's so kids were probably using devices or computers more than ever. So I think that was probably some of what was happening at that time, and that made it very difficult for parents to navigate that without using something to occupy a job.
Yes.
And as that as a habit, now could be a brand new habit. Now you have to make sure that they're sitting appropriately. So certain things you just have to, as kids kind of defer to whatever you allow them to do. So not allowing you to do this.
Right. Right, exactly. And that's a very good point, because we are the shepherds, right? We are the ones who are supposed to be helping to create a better environment, a better digital wellness practice for them at home. And, I realize that a lot of us parents are really struggling in this area, which is why we decided to create Kids Digital Wellness in the first place, to help introduce easy digital wellness habits that they can introduce at home, become more aware of it, and be empowered with the knowledge to, have a preventative approach as opposed to taking corrective action. And so sorry?
Like that preventive approach, not corrective action. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, but that's really what we're about. We don't want to reach the point where we have to get medical intervention. We're a pill popping society. It is what it is. And I find myself, even with my own kids, and they complain about having a headache, I'm like, oh, let's get the Tylenol, when there are other, measures we can take to help with those pains and not just pop a pill. Okay, I feel like I digressed a bit, but bringing it back to the awareness of our kids' positioning, right? So as a physiotherapist, you handle movement, and now you have the neurology behind it all as well. What do you say are some of the simple exercises that we can introduce to our kids to help balance the whole tack consumption and just regular life?
So it's a good question. The neck doesn't like an arch, so it doesn't want, if anybody was to poke their head out, it doesn't like that. And the other thing is, I'm going to turn sideways so you can see.
Show us. Yeah.
You don't want that action. So a lot of people are doing this action at their computers, at their desks, clickety click. That's not a good position. I'm not sure. I can't see it, but that's kind of what it looks like. The neck likes more flatness. Think any of you who practice yoga or Pilates, think something pulling your head toward the ceiling, long, tall, and more flat towards the back of the head. So that tallness is not just going backwards, but it's staying tall. So think if you're opening up the spinous processes in that direction.
Yes. Okay.
Kind of a good way to put it. So that's a really good exercise. If you ask me, anybody who's done yoga or hasn't done yoga or Pilates, try one, and you'll kind of immediately sense that my alignment matters, and it doesn't, doing alignment type of exercise, you won't sweat while you're doing it, but it's hard because it requires concentration to hold your body in a certain position. So there's no one standard exercise for everyone, but generally there's certain positions that don't lead down the good road, and that chin poking out, head, neck arched. It's just not a good stable position for the neck. So generally, I would say that's a good one to start with.
That's great. Very helpful. I think, when we hear sit up straight, I'm constantly still having to tell the kids to sit up straight. Now I think I could reposition it a bit to say, elongate your head and break down that word. So Sandro, kids are nimble, they're flexible at this age. Should parents really be concerned with their posture from, 3 years old onward when dealing with technology? Is it necessary at that age when we know that their bodies are naturally more nimble?
Yes, because the habits you instill today will be their go-to tomorrow.
Absolutely.
So instill good habits immediately and keep them. So the answer is yes. Just because they're flexible now, that doesn't mean they'll continue to be flexible if you allow them to have static habits.
Mm-hmm.
Short answer is be worried, be diligent about having good habits, and lead by example. As parents, we have to lead by example. If I only eat pizza, then what do you think my daughter's going to do? She's only going to eat pizza. So if I eat fruits and veg, and she sees me eating it and enjoying it as well, because I can't be eating fruit and veg, be like, oh my god, I don't.
Right. We tend to forget that part.
Over your face when you chew into that.
When we model the behavior that we want our kids to adopt, we tend to forget those little nuances, right? With vegetables. That's a great analogy. Thank you. So just, reiterating, it is important to begin considering posture as a part of the whole wellness routine and habits, not just on technology, but period. And the biggest point that's sticking out for me from our conversation today is that protruded head movement that we have to try and help our kids, one, become aware of, and two, how to correct it, so that three, they can correct it themselves. Well, thank you so much.
Have a good device that helps with that. We haven't talked about it.
I have not. If you want to learn more about our invention, which is called the DigiRoo, you can visit kidsdigitalwellness.com. Sandra, before we wrap up, are there any final thoughts you'd like to share? Let us know, for those who are in Bermuda, where we can find you if we're having aches and pains ourselves to come get treatment.
Oh, our website is bpralliance.com. You just type in your search bar Evolution Healing Center and you'll find us as well. And it's very much a pleasure to be here. I love your device. I'm very much a fan. Keep on doing what you're doing. I look forward to the operate whenever you operate it. I'm sure you're always looking to operate it and make it as good as possible. And that's it.
Thank you. No, I have to say thank you to you for helping me on the journey, because Sandra was one of the first experts that I reached out to talk about trying to get a better understanding with the whole phenomena of tech and how it influences our kids and how we can sort of predict or prepare for, rather, what could happen in the future if we don't do something about some of the bad habits now. And so, Sandra, thank you for being a part of that journey with me. And we'll have you back another time. Thank you everyone for being here. If you enjoyed this interview, please like and subscribe. And you can always contact us on Kids Digital Wellness on Instagram or Facebook. Thank you.